Thank you for nice words. I'm here to present the metabolic associated fatty liver disease in diabetes, what physicians need to know. Just a minute. So I have nothing to declare here, and this is the place of work. So I'll begin with a case. Just a minute. Okay, I'll begin with the case. This case I managed in 2013, but this was an eye opener for me. So I hope you will have good learning from this case, and then we will build upon it. So Mr. RM, 58-year male, his BMI 31 kg per meter square, that is obese, and had visceral obesity. His waist circumference 106 centimeter. Our upper limit is 95 centimeters. And he had type 2 diabetes of 14-year duration at that time, that is 8 years ago. And he had regular follow-up with his diabetologist. His current HbA1c was 7.3% on glimepiride 4 milligram per day and metformin 2000 milligram per day. Okay, so he had an episode of massive upper GI bleed and was admitted in a hospital where I was doing my doctorate of medicine, my DM in endocrinology. And he needed multiple blood transfusions. It was like 7 in 24 hours, and he survived narrowly. Endoscopy revealed multiple grade 3 and 2 varices. Variceal ligation was performed. Ultimately, he was found to have NAFLD related cirrhosis of liver. So it was surprise for the patient because he was asymptomatic till then. He had no clinical features of CLD, and nobody had told him that you had CLD, chronic liver disease. And it was surprise for the physician also, who had been managing his diabetes for more than 8 years. And that physician was working in the same hospital. So he told me that it is an embarrassment. He came regularly for follow-up. I did all investigations, still I missed his chronic liver disease. So you can see how you feel if you saw your patient in emergency with upper GI bleed. After so many years of knowing the patient, to following him. So what should we screen for liver disease in all patients with diabetes? How to screen for this disease efficiently and cost effectively? When diagnosed earlier, what can we do to improve clinical outcomes? So if the condition is common in society, and when you are missing cases, you have to screen actively. This is the crux of this case, and we'll see what we can do. So you have seen this progressive stages of NAFLD, but here I want to stress upon a few things. Like, we have created another this advanced fibrosis F3 from NASH and mild fibrosis F0, F2. Why was this important? Because later on I'll show you that it was not NASH, that is inflammation, and mild and moderate fibrosis, that is F1 and F2, but it was advanced fibrosis that determined all-cause mortality and liver-related mortality in patients with NAFLD. So this is actual progression, but you should know that the progression is not linear. It is not that today you have NAFL, simple fatty liver, and tomorrow you will have NASH, and the day after you will have advanced liver fibrosis, cirrhosis, and HCC. It is not like that. It is highly dynamic. Until advanced fibrosis stage, that is F3, you can see double-headed arrows. It is reversible, depending on the current lifestyle. If you have, for example, NASH, and if you follow a good lifestyle for a few weeks only, you may, reverse back to simple fatty liver, NAFL. Or if you have good, lifestyle for a few weeks, you had advanced fibrosis, you will reverse back. So it is highly dynamic. That is why it is very difficult to study. If you are doing research in this area, you will see sometimes it is frustrating because the placebo arm changes so much. So it is always frustrating. So number one, we also cirrhosis, that is F4, we have a large number of undiagnosed compensated cirrhosis. Mark my word, it's compensated cirrhosis. A patient who had cirrhotic changes in liver, but has no clinical symptom and sign. And this is an opportunity because many people with this compensated cirrhosis remain asymptomatic for a number of years. This gives us an opportunity to pick them up and have prophylactic things like prophylactic variceal ligation to prevent catastrophe later on. Another point I will lay emphasis on is that it is not that a person who has cirrhosis will develop HCC. Some people with advanced liver fibrosis and no cirrhosis develop hepatocellular carcinoma. Okay, so this is progression. Now, most of the people with type 2 diabetes have NAFLD, like 80%. And most of them will remain simple fatty liver throughout their lives, whole life. That is big, 80 to 90%. That is why it is nobody treats NAFLD, simple fatty liver, because we are not worried about this. We are worried about a small proportion of NAFLD patients who progresses to advanced fibrosis and cirrhosis. And before till advanced fibrosis, it is a reversible condition. We'll study that later on. So when I say that majority have simple fatty liver, 80 to 90%, stable and low risk of progression, then why should we worry about it? Because the prevalence of the disease is so high that even with this small proportion of patients who progress, makes it still the most common clinical condition of liver. That is the most common cause of chronic liver disease, and it is most common cause of indication for liver transplantation in many countries, and it will become most common cause for indication for liver transplantation in India in a few years. So it was shown by Al-Sarraf early on in 2004 in a study involving more than 800,000, that is 8 lakh individuals with or without diabetes, who were followed up to 20 years, that people with diabetes have increased hazard ratio for chronic liver disease. You can see in first curve, no diabetes, the curve is lower and it goes up steeply who have diabetes. And the cause is diabetes for chronic liver disease. It is chronic non-alcoholic liver disease. And it also showed that diabetes was associated with a hazard ratio of 2.16 for hepatic carcinoma. You can see HCC here. So one of the most common cause of chronic liver disease and HCC is diabetes. So this is a study, our study. We did it in last year. It is accepted in clinical research, hepatology and endocrinology, gastroenterology. It's very important. You can see how much the burden of this disease is in our society. It's a prospective cross-sectional study in a hospital outpatient setting. So if you are working in a tertiary care center, you are missing a number of patients. You can see here, they are all consecutive patients. So in 487 patients with type 2 diabetes, age 53, mean age, BMI 27, you can say we're obese, diabetes duration of 8 years, 55% had hypertension, and 63% had dyslipidemia. So these are our usual patients. So out of 487 using CAP criteria of FibroScan, 82%, that is 400 had NAFLD. And out of these 400, 66, that is 16.5% had advanced liver fibrosis. If you see this, 66 out of 400 were here. So you can see that this is only one step away from cirrhosis. And again, out of these 400 patients, 29, that is 7.25% had LSM-based cirrhosis. LSM-based cirrhosis, we say it when the liver stiffness measurement, it's another parameter of FibroScan, is more than 13 kilopascal. So 29 patients had more LSM more than 13 pascal. It means these people may have liver cirrhosis. You have to check them. You have to further confirm it. And out of these 29, 25 underwent dynamic MRI of the liver. Out of these 25, 18 had confirmed cirrhosis of liver. All these had compensated cirrhosis, the last stage. So you can see in this study was done in 5 months. So 5 months, if we were not doing this study, we were missing 29 patients with cirrhosis in our tertiary care center. So you can see the extent of this problem in society, but we are not doing anything because we are missing all these patients. And in these 18 patients who had confirmed cirrhosis on dynamic liver MRI, only ultrasound showed features of cirrhosis in only 2 patients. So if you are doing ultrasound, you are still missing 16 patients. So later on, we published this. This was estimated burden, prevalence of various liver pathologies that I showed different stages in India. So 72.9 million have type 2 diabetes. It is from the International Diabetes Federation 2017. And out of these, 40.8 million have NAFLD, that is first stage. 27 million have NASH, that is second stage, they have inflammation of the liver. 12.4 million have advanced liver fibrosis, that is the third stage, which is one step away from cirrhosis. And 373,000 had compensated cirrhosis. See, 373,000, and most of these patients are undiagnosed. They are, just walking with type 2 diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia in our OPDs. And 87,500 had hepatic cancer. So that is why screening is more important, and risk stratification. It is not enough that we have ultrasound and it says grade 1 fatty liver. It is not enough. We have to see. We physicians, we clinicians, till now, we presume that if you have a ultrasound grade 1 fatty liver or grade 2 fatty liver, we presume that it's a simple fatty liver. No, it can be any one stage from simple fatty liver to cirrhosis of liver. So we have to risk stratify. We have to screen for advanced fibrosis and cirrhosis. That I will tell later on. So what population are at risk for NAFLD? Obesity, we all know, increased risk with advanced BMI and waist circumference. Type 2 diabetes, and when I'm talking of type 2 diabetes patients, I'm interested in this group. Genetics, we all have one. There are many genetic factors. For example, PNP, LA3, TM6, SF2. These are various loci which are high risk for developing and progression of metabolic associated fatty liver disease, male gender and advancing age. So now why we created that advanced liver fibrosis, another stage. If you see older books, you will see that we have simple steatosis, we have NASH, we have cirrhosis, and we have HCC. Now we introduce another advanced liver fibrosis. Why? This study it showed clearly. It was 619 patients, 6 centers, 3 continents, median follow-up of 12.6 years. So it showed the survival of patients having different stages. So if you see the red and the green curve, this group of population had lower survival. So what is common in these two groups? See, NASH and fibrosis, non-NASH and fibrosis. Where there is fibrosis positive, that is fibrosis present, these two groups had lower survival. Those where fibrosis was absent, whether it is steatosis, it is NASH without fibrosis, there was no decrease in survival. So we can say that it is not the steatosis, simple fatty liver. It is not these 4 things: lobular inflammation, portal inflammation, ballooning, NASH. These are all different ways of looking at NASH inflammation. It was only fibrosis, presence of advanced fibrosis, that is F3, and further compensated cirrhosis, that decreases survival. That is why we are worried for this stage and onwards. So this is again showing mortality increase as the fibrosis stage. First, I showed fibrosis is a harmful marker. Now, which stage of fibrosis? This meta-analysis involving 1,495 NAFLD patients, and it is a meta-analysis of 5 studies, biopsy-based studies. You can see all-cause mortality, stage 0 of fibrosis, that is no fibrosis, NASH with no fibrosis, NASH with grade 1 fibrosis, and NASH with grade 2 fibrosis had mortality didn't increase so much. And after grade 3 and 4, there was exponential increase. That is why we say advanced liver fibrosis are different, because it determines all-cause mortality and liver-related mortality. You can see after 3, there is exponential increase in liver-related mortality. That is why we created another advanced liver fibrosis. So what are the modalities that we can use in clinic for detection of liver fat steatosis? Ultrasonography, CAP of FibroScan, CT scan, MRI PDFF, proton density fat fraction, MR spectroscopy, and liver biopsy. But these are not needed in clinics, because ultrasound, why it is not needed? It gives you only idea about presence of fat. I said most of these patients are benign. Number 2, it doesn't give us any clue about NASH, about advanced fibrosis, or about compensated cirrhosis. That is why it is not needed in patient care. No test is needed. Ultrasound, CAP of FibroScan, CT scan, MRI PDFF, MR spectroscopy, and liver biopsy. Research purpose, MRI PDFF and MRS and liver biopsy. Now the gold standard is MRI PDFF for detection of liver fat or for seeing drug effect on the fat change. The gold standard is MRI PDFF and MRS. Liver biopsy is not a gold standard anymore, because there are many problems involved with it. So we'll discuss that later. And what are the modalities that you can detect liver inflammation? That is NASH. Only liver biopsy. No other test can detect NASH. Okay. So somebody says AST, ALT. No, most of the people with NASH have normal AST, ALT. So third, these are the modalities that are used to screen for liver fibrosis. That is important for us. First is non-invasive serological scoring systems. That I'll come later. Liver stiffness measurement of FibroScan. That is important tool. It's now gaining, acceptance among physicians also. It is third is RFE. It is ultrasound-based technique. It is used in, higher centers. MR elastography is a gold standard non-invasive test, not available everywhere, expensive. Biopsy can detect liver fibrosis, but it cannot be done because the burden is huge. You can't send all patients to biopsy. So what to do? So you have at least 6 serological scoring systems that are very helpful for screening these patients for advanced fibrosis and cirrhosis. So for us, for all practical purposes, 2 are very common. FIB4, using only 4 parameters: age, AST, ALT, and platelet, and NFS. But we'll talk about FIB4 score only, because it is commonly used, it is well validated, and it doesn't require any primary physician in his clinic can use this. There's a simple calculator. As you calculate EGFR, you can calculate FIB4. I will tell you that later. And the last one, enhanced liver fibrosis test, uses 3 markers: hyaluronic acid, TIMP1, and P3NP. These are the markers of fibrosis. Some are fibrosis formation markers or fibrosis resolving markers. This is slightly better than FIB4 score, but it has disadvantage that it is not available everywhere and it is expensive. So we come out of these 6 serological scores, we will learn about FIB4 and we will use it in our clinics. So FIB4 is a tool for ruling out advanced fibrosis. So if you have 100 patients in a week, for example, you want to see, FIB4 is a tool that will tell you that this person has only benign fatty liver. This one has benign fatty liver. So this is a ruling out, if device. So area under ROC is 0.86, sensitivity low, specificity low, but negative predictive value of 95%. We use this property of this test, negative predictive value, that if it says that this person has no advanced fibrosis, then it is 95% times right. So we'll see that. And here you can see AUROC of FIB4 is 0.86, and it is lower for other serological. So we will use FIB4. So another modality that is important for us to rule out advanced fibrosis is liver stiffness measurement of FibroScan. FibroScan has it gives us two parameters. One is CAP, like here 350 is CAP. It says how much fat is in the liver. 350 means grade 3, more than 50% fat in liver. And E or LSM, E is also known as LSM, it is kilopascals. It is 5.6. This person has grade 3 fatty liver, but it has no liver fibrosis. That is, it is benign fatty liver. Although he has grade 3 fatty liver, but it's a benign fatty liver because he has no fibrosis at this point of time. So you can see different negative predictive values. And if it is more than 11.5 or 12, it has high specificity for cirrhosis. In our study, we used LSM of more than 13 for detection of cirrhosis. Then this only says that if your patient gets LSM more than 13, it says you need to, check again with other modality. This person may have cirrhosis. This test doesn't tell you this has cirrhosis. It says that this person may have cirrhosis. You need to check it again by another modality. That is why we use it dynamic MRI of the liver later on. Okay, so negative AUROC curve different for different stages. For FR, F4 and F3 it is high. For advanced fibrosis and for cirrhosis it is very high. So we use, and many societies advise to use these two things. One non-invasive FIB4, and then again non-invasive liver stiffness measurement of FibroScan. So we will see back to our patient who developed upper GI bleed at the age of 58. So I got his previous investigations at that time at age 53, when he was 5 years prior to the index upper GI bleed. His AST was 25, ALT was 62, platelet was 321. So apparently this is normal report. And I calculated his FIB4 at that time. It was low, it was less than 1.4 or 1.3. That means it says at that time he has a benign liver fat. So at age 56, 2 years prior to the upper GI bleed, his ultrasound showed grade 1 fatty liver and no cirrhosis, and AST was 62, ALT was 45, platelet was 162. I calculated his FIB4 at this level, it was 3.9. That is the high chances of advanced fibrosis or cirrhosis. So if we had screened this patient 2 years before his upper GI bleed episode, we could have got this result. We could have sent him to the other modalities like FibroScan or upper GI endoscopy. We could do prophylactic and upper GI, this variceal ligation, and we could have prevented the catastrophe. So this is what we need to do now. So what does the different society guidelines tell us? EASL, European Association for the Study of Liver, Diabetes and Obesity. You need to understand two things. Should we screen for NAFLD, that is simple fat, or should we screen for advanced fibrosis and cirrhosis, that I'm saying FIB4 and LSM. Most of the societies, be it AS, American Association for the Study of Liver Disease, British Society of Gastroenterology, NICE, Spanish Society, and ADA, all they do not recommend screening for liver fat. So it is of no use if you are saying you're telling your patient to get ultrasound done, and ultrasound says grade 1 or grade 2 fatty liver. It is of no use. It doesn't help actually. What you have to do, look here, screening for advanced fibrosis. All societies unanimously recommend screening for advanced fibrosis. While screening for liver fat, no, not recommended, not recommended, not recommended. So, and how to screen? Use non-invasive tests, that serological score. Here, ASLD, use FIB4 NFS. British Society of Gastroenterology, use FIB4 or NFS, followed by TE, transient elastography, that is FibroScan, LSM, ELF, and that last serological, it is expensive and not present everywhere. NFS, FIB4, Spanish Society, FIB4, NFS, and FibroScan. So there is no confusion when it comes screening for advanced fibrosis and cirrhosis. Whether we should screen for fatty liver, only benign fat is not, societies are divided. So what does our American Diabetes Association, because we are all, caring for diabetes patients, it says NASH and fibrosis screening, not fatty liver screening. NASH and fibrosis screening. But what NASH, because there is only biopsy, we can't do it. So it is out of question. So it is again fibrosis screening recommended in patients with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes and elevated ALT or fatty liver. So if you have a patient who has already undergone ultrasonography or any other modality and says that I have a fatty liver, now is your work to screen, to stratify for advanced fibrosis and cirrhosis. So I will show you two strategies, what you can do, and it is recommended by all societies. So it is algorithm for NAFLD evaluation and management. First step. So if you are in a periphery or in a clinic where you have no facility, you have no FibroScan or other modalities. So in all type 2 diabetes patients, and when you suspect of NAFLD, if your patient is obese, if he has type 2 diabetes and other comorbidities, if he has elevated LFT, AST, ALT, if he has already undergone ultrasonography and it shows fatty liver. So you just calculate his FIB4 score. It's an online simple calculator. Just you need age, AST, ALT, and platelet count. If it is less than 1.3, most of your patients, 80%, will come under this category. It means low risk. It means he has simple fat in liver where the progression is very low. So nothing to do, just give standard diabetes care. If you have FIB4 score in 1.3 to 3.25, he is of intermediate risk. If you have nothing else to offer, then give intensified lifestyle modification. You need to introduce, liver directed, you have to talk about liver and liver complications. Here it is not important, low risk. Because why is not important? Because you are unnecessarily putting additional burden to patient. He is already under burden of diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, and you have only 10% risk of progression. So we will leave this group. Intermediate risk group, they are more nearer to the complication. So we will talk about liver complications. We will intensify lifestyle modification, and you should use preferable anti-diabetic drugs like SGLT2 inhibitors, GLP-1 receptor agonists, or pioglitazone for treatment of diabetes in this group. And annually, you will risk stage. When a patient comes for another checkup, you have all these parameters. These are simple parameters. You have to again recheck and re-stratify. If your patient has FIB4 more than 3.25, it's high risk. It may be advanced liver fibrosis or it may be cirrhosis. You have to give same management, but you have to refer this patient to the to a specialist. If you cannot do anything, if you have no fibroscan or nothing, and he needs a screening for cirrhosis and HCC, that is, you need to refer this patient. So if you are in a secondary or tertiary care center and you have fibroscan available, then after you do FIB4 and rule out this less than 1.3 low risk group, you separate. For all other who have more than 1.3, you send them for fibroscan. If you have LSM, liver stiffness measurement, less than 8, they are again low risk. They will follow, standard diabetes care. If it is LSM is between 8 to 12 kilopascal, they will go category second, intensify lifestyle modification, these drugs that have favorable effect on NAFLD, and biannual fibroscan. If your LSM is more than 12, it needs same management as category 2, but you have to send them to a hepatologist for screening for cirrhosis. It can be done by dynamic MRI of the liver or upper GI endoscopy to look for esophageal varices, and HCC surveillance by alpha fetoprotein and other things. So these are 2 stages. This is if you are in a periphery and you have nothing else except for these basic investigations. If you are in a tertiary or secondary care center, if you have fibroscan with you. So this is risk stratification. My emphasis will be on this. We should stratify and all patients with type 2 diabetes and see who is on this continuum, who is lying where, and who needs urgent treatment and urgent care and urgent prophylactic measures. So but something about this treatment, body weight reduction is the most effective modality for treatment in this 52-week lifestyle intervention. Those patients who lost more than 10% weight, you say 90% had NASH resolution. And this is a biopsy-based study. Fibrous regression, more than 1 stage. If they had advanced, they go to moderate or no without fibrosis. 81%. 100% had resolution of liver fat. That is, there was no steatosis if you lost more than 10%. But the one tragedy with this is only 10% achieve more than 10% weight loss and sustain it till 52 weeks. So it is a good strategy. It is a treatment actually, but 90% people do not sustain this. They lose weight, they regain it. So it is different. If you lose from 7 to 10%, these are the rates of resolution. If you lose from 5 to 7, if you lose something but less than 5, these are, and 70% sustain this. We know that this is common. But one thing is clear, if you are able to lose more than 10% and sustain it, it is going to cure your liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Second, what about these drugs, pioglitazone, as my other speakers also talk on this. It was Dr. Sanyal who in 2010 showed that pioglitazone improved, it increases body weight, but improved liver enzymes. It reduced liver fat, increased body weight, reduced liver fat, liver enzymes improved, liver fat improved, liver inflammation improved, and liver fibrosis improved. That is, improved almost all stages. Liraglutide in lean study, it was carried by Armstrong. He also showed same that body weight was also decreased, improved enzymes, fat, liver inflammation, and fibrosis also. Dulaglutide, it was our study, DLIFT, that we published last year in Diabetologia. We showed that this dulaglutide reduced body weight, improved liver enzymes, decreased liver fat when measured by MRI, but no improve. We didn't look for these 2 model things because these are biopsy parameters. Empagliflozin, we showed in 2018 in ELIFT trial that it decreases body weight, improved liver enzymes, decreased liver fat. We did
a little quick, Dr. Safi. I think we are running.
It is. So my key message is screen all patients with diabetes for NAFLD complications. Do not miss cirrhosis and refer them to initiate surveillance for complications. Do not miss advanced liver fibrosis. initiate discussion about liver-specific complications, use cost-effective ways to diagnose these conditions, FIB4 and FibroScan. Do not forget primary prevention, that is reduction of liver fat burden. Calorie restriction is the best strategy, both for primary prevention and treatment. Pioglitazone, SGLT2, GLP-1 receptor agonists are helpful adjuvants. Thank you.